the goal of human life. Yeah. We are goal-oriented beings. We need a goal. We need a direction. That's how our cognition, our brain works. We travel from one point A to point B. So anyone without a goal is suspect. Oh yeah. And then we have a kind of a hierarchy of kind of needs. They become goals. Abraham Maslow showed us in the hierarchy of needs. Food and security and esteem and all these things. Kind of last is self-actualization. But apart from that, we are engaged with different goals. Most of us. Yeah, there are some who like John Lennon was here and say, if everybody should work for peace. Imagine, when I take a walk down Central Park, they sing that song. Imagine all the people living life in peace. So for some people, that is one goal. They're working towards it. Some people say, you see, eat, drink, and be merry. That's the idea. But then, how gross can you be? Millions of people are starving, and you like to eat, drink, and besides, we've tried this for thousands and thousands of years. Yeah, everybody has been trying it, and it's an illusion. So, but even then, we get engaged with that. There are some people, generally religious people, or even pseudo-religious people. They like to go to heaven, and that's kind of sold, kind of a very, very, intense way. And people have come to believe, yes, we will go one day to heaven. And do what? Well, we'll reach there and then we'll decide what are you going to do. So there are different goals of different people. There are some people who would like to leave this place itself and go to some other planet probably. Yeah. But somewhere deep down, it is the ideal of perfection that is actually motivating us. It's always that perfection, that I want to be perfect. And that is, as Sri Ramakrishna says, the goal of human life is to see God. Well, seeing God, yeah, attaining perfection or attaining that truth. So there has to be a goal that transcends all limitations. Otherwise, it's not going to be a goal. Yes, it has to be a kind of a transcendent goal. And we all are, in a way, engaged with this goal. We are oriented towards. I don't know what actually happened, but somewhere down the long evolutionary, you can say, path, humans were more or less the same 100,000, 150 or 200,000 years. I mean, they were kind of same. They looked like us, except they were, long beards and this and that. No offense to the beards and all, but then they were physiologically kind of looking like us. But there was a transformation. People have not been able to pin down, evolutionary biology have not been, there was a tremendous cognitive development. Whether it's a prefrontal cortex or whatever, it really spurred us on this path of development. And today, what happens is, everything happens in evolution, it takes a long time to unfold. Cognitive development took place somewhere around 100,000 years. And it took a long time for us to develop language. Yes. Reasoning skills. These took time. In fact, it's just unfolding. And we are in the middle of an unfoldment. In one part of the globe, people unfolded this cognitive development into what is called yoga. Yes. And they found higher and higher and higher aspects of cognition. Yes. So we are still kind of refining a language and all the skills. And we are in a process of developing ourselves. We have not finished developing ourselves. And we are generally apt to think of ourselves as perfect beings. No. You just close your eyes and see how perfect you are. Thoughts keep on whirling around and round and round. So, you look at yourself in the mirror, I could have been looking better than this. Everywhere you see kind of an imperfection, yet the idea of perfection is ingrained in us. And we try to better ourselves every passing day. So this is what actually is guiding us into higher and higher. Today's humanity is more cognitively developed, and we are comfortable with rational thoughts, not just beliefs. Most of this mythology and this and that is kind of dismissed. But of course, we now realize that these mythologies also spoke in that old mythological language about certain truths, which they could not articulate it in the way we are used to learning languages. It's not a logical process. But by far and large, we are comfortable with logic, reasoning, rational. You say something stupid and you invite kind of derision. So there are people, when we say we are looking for direction, looking for goal, there are some people who just let go. They're saying, what is there? There's nothing in life. It's from the womb to the tomb. That's all. But no, we are, as a species, we tend to kind of denigrate ourselves. We've remarkably advanced in many fields. Life itself is seeking higher and higher and higher expressions. Today's life is networked, we know. And that has raised social intelligence to a remarkable degree. Yeah, it has its flip side, kind of, bad side and the good side. But we are coming together as a species tremendously in this age. Never was it possible. And we can understand exploitation, we can understand all these things which are dragging us down. We have become more aware of the environment. There are voices against these things. This means that we are becoming aware as global citizens. And that's, like I said, because of our cognitive development, aided by all these machines, all these things. Another thing is, with these machines and all these artificial intelligence and the like, most of our old thoughts, or beliefs, or life patterns are changing. We tend to become more focused on specific task. And the degree of concentration required for these tasks is tremendous. We are called upon to concentrate. If you lose that, you lose everything. Yeah. Somehow the science of yoga had foreseen this kind of cognitive development as well as the need for concentration and rational lines of thought. So I'm going to look at this ideal of perfection through the lens of yoga, because that's what yoga is, a short, swift path to perfection. It's not just, I want to live healthy, I want to feel good. Those are spin-offs. It takes a person from where he or she is and attempts to make that person perfect. That's the idea of it. Before we can go in, from the yoga, we need to look at it, this idea of perfection, also from another standpoint. And that is the whole of the Western civilization, if you can see, which is kind of, a derivative of the old Greco-Roman. We find the concept of logos. In India, it was a concept of shabda, word, vibration. In the Bible, it's in the beginning there was the Word, and the Word was God, and God was the Word. That was, the translation actually is not word, it's a logos. Everyone embodies this logos. And our thoughts and actions and words are just to manifest the logos. Nothing else. What is the logos? It is perfection. So the ideal of perfection is already within us, and our lives are supposed to manifest that perfection as I say, as logos. This was an old concept amongst the ancients. And we have then another kind of, why is the practice of restraint important? Well, you can do whatever you want to. You try it out. There won't be any New York City. The very idea of society is to restrain yourself. What is yoga? Yoga says, yoga chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga is controlling the mind stuff from emerging as waves. We are here, all of us, we try to extend ourselves, we try to expand ourselves, we try to influence things and people. The mind is constantly breaking into waves. And the whole concept of perfection is hold it and drag it back down. Because if you live a life without any restraint, it's self-destructive. Every form of science or art or humanities, or any creative thing has been through restraint, not through unbridled, you can say, enjoyment of things. That has kind of taken us down to the path of, drug abuse and alcoholism and all types of neuroticism. It's leading us to insanity. The whole concept of society is bear and forbear, restraint. Yeah. And this restraint will develop this cognitive faculty even more. That was the very first aphorisms in the yoga. You need to have restraint over yourself. Why? Because somewhere deep down we understand the ideal of perfection is within. As I said, the logos or shabda, that which is impelling us. This externalized, you can say, seeking for perfection. Oh, we'll make this world a nice place, a beautiful place. People have been trying it for a long time. They haven't been succeeding in it. But you can make yourself perfect once you go in within. And today, all the cognitive sciences, or all you can say research, is trying to find a source of consciousness within. Yes, amazingly. If you can understand consciousness, you can understand a human being. And what is that consciousness? Yes, we'll get down to it. So, this inward journey is what is yoga. And it's necessary because we have to conserve our energies, focus them, direct them within. You close your eyes and what do you see within? Nothing. Don't be fooled by that. For millennia, yoga discovered higher and higher states of consciousness. Oh yes, there are various levels. Today we only know the conscious and the subconscious. A little of the pre-conscious and the adaptive conscious. All these kind of terms that kind of frighten a lay person. What's that? What's this? But the idea is that there are areas in consciousness which have not been explored ordinarily, which have been explored by the science of yoga. And they found that a human being can live on those high planes of existence. Consciousness is existence, of course. And slowly we're getting down to it. Somewhere deep down, we understand that. So consciousness is here, I am conscious, we are all conscious. Let's see if anybody is unconscious. But that's what the whole idea is. So we need a kind of a role model. It's always like that. And to have a role model, that model has to be, or icon has to be perfect. One time, a close devotee of Sri Ramakrishna, called Bhavnath Chatterjee, he was kind of saying, I want to photograph you. He told Sri Ramakrishna, I want to photograph you. He wasn't willing, Sri Ramakrishna. But he went ahead with his plans. He bought a photographer a few days after this. And then the equipment was ready, and Sri Ramakrishna, he was kind of in a different world altogether, the world of the Divine Mother. He walked out of his room, and Bhavnath is trying to kind of convince him, why don't you pose for that photograph? Just then Swami Vivekananda comes in. Comes in and says, what's happened? Bhavnath explains to Swami Vivekananda. Just a moment. So he keeps on talking about religious subjects with Sri Ramakrishna. And Sri Ramakrishna, he goes into what is called samadhi. And as he goes in samadhi, and he had gone to the Radhakanta temple, one of the temples on the high kind of platform. You're sitting down there. So Swami Vivekananda says, now photograph him. Yeah. And they got all the equipment ready. Somewhere, kind of his chin was slightly this. So the photographer went, he tried to straighten it up. And Sri Ramakrishna's whole body lifted up like it was featherweight. Yeah. He just tried to straighten his chin and the whole body lifted up. And Swami Vivekananda yelled, don't touch him in that state. Quickly click that photo. And the photographer is like, there. So Bhavanath comes and, kind of, the other day, shows him this. Oh, this is a very high state of yoga. It will in time be worshipped in every home. Worship in the home will be worshipped in every heart. And we see his prophecy coming true in a way. It's spreading so fast. So, yoga is perfection. Now, yoga needs a kind of an icon or a face. And in this age, let's put it as Sri Ramakrishna. I'll tell you why later. So we have the perfection of yoga embodied by Ramakrishna. Now what is Ramakrishna? We are saying, oh, he's an incarnation of God. And there are many people, even today, that declaring themselves as incarnations of God. Kind of nice, no? The more the merrier. Let's have more and more incarnations. And everybody says. But they miss one essential quality of being an incarnation. And that is, Swami Vivekananda says, see, when we are born, we go through a whole process of evolution. The way we evolved. In 9 months in the womb, the child goes. When the child is born, he or she is that old savage. He'll crush the butterfly under the feet. And as we develop social skills and language and all these things, we become civilized. So by the time the child is 9, 10 years old, he's getting civilized. We are in the process of being civilized. Don't worry. We are not fully civilized. Yeah, otherwise why should we have police and why should we have all these kind of jails? That's not civilization. We are still in the process of civilization. We still have homeless people. We still have beggars. We still have hungry. That's not civilization. We are going towards it. So, a person, when he or she is born, transits the whole journey of evolution. Well, when we stop here and then we die. Nothing ends with death. Death is nothing but another transition. But I'll leave that for another time. What an avatar does, there we have. There. What an avatar does is, he or she lives the entire life of the whole human race. Not only of the whole human race, but of the whole of nature in one short span of his life. So it traverses that and goes to the very end, the very culmination of where human beings will be maybe 5 million years if we don't self-destruct ourselves. So an avatar lives the past, the present and future of the whole of creation. Not only of humanity, you must understand. Because an avatar comes for everyone, not for a select few. Oh, I worship that avatar, so I'll be saved. No. What does an avatar teach us? He traverses the whole path, reaches out in the future, attains that perfection that humanity and creation will attain maybe after 1,000,000 years. That perfection is now presented to us today in this tangible form. Yes. You must not think, he came and sang and danced and spoke a few words, and you don't see the substructures and the substructures of an avatar's life. So he is, in a way, the future of humanity and the future of the world. There's a tremendous power. In a way, an avatar is the universe in a microcosm. And the universe, not only this gross universe that we see, the universe has various levels of existence. He or she embody each and every level of existence. What perfection will look like and be is this. Well, we can say, why should we have this culturally kind of delineated person? You see, you must understand, truth or existence transcends cultures. And it's not that the kind of American culture or Indian culture. We are, in a way, trying to crystallize, tease out certain aspects of culture from nature. There's nature and nurture kind of dynamics at play. So if truth is only culturally bound, trammeled by this language and that kind of civilization, that's not going to be universal. Yeah. So, what is yoga? Yeah. Yoga is perfection. Not those kind of headstands and body contortions that somebody does, and many people do it, They have a health benefit and makes you feel good, No pain, no gain. So they go through that processes of exercise. But yoga is samadhi. Samadhi is concentration. Concentration leads you to perfection. And people say, what is yoga? I'm doing yoga. Yoga is actually samadhi. Samadhi is concentration, deep concentration. When Sri Ramakrishna used to go into those states of intense concentration, the doctor used to he put a stethoscope and said, oh, heart is not beating. Another doctor put his finger in the eyeball and saying, there's no kind of reaction at all. Totapuri, his Vedanta guru, he saw that his disciple has now attained a state of samadhi. And he quietly leaves a small hut that he's meditating in and acts as a sentinel so that the person inside will not be disturbed. For 3 whole days, Sri Ramakrishna is in that state. And when he enters, he checks a sign, because he was an expert in the science of yoga, saying, yeah, this is real samadhi. And then he began to bring his mind down to this plane of consciousness. He did. So after he left, Sri Ramakrishna once again plunged into it, and for 6 months, he was in that state. In that state, the body more or less kind of dies. There is no life in the body. People say, I want samadhi. So I said, are you willing to stop living, breathing, eating, sleeping, walking, talking? You got to go into, it's like into a kind of a high degree of hibernation. In that state, the person is dead externally, as it were. But internally, that person becomes one with knowledge, one with the universe. In that state, Sri Ramakrishna got a command from the Divine Mother. Stay in Bhavamukha. Stay on the borderline of what is absolute consciousness and relative consciousness. he wasn't a very obedient, you can say. Yeah. Divine Mother had to tell him 3 times. And then, well, yeah, it was there. So in that state, he kind of comes down and he is barely conscious of this external world because his mind keeps on plunging back in that absolute consciousness. Why does it happen? So, what happens? He is like a kind of a doorway, an entrance to those realms. If we can hold on to that, we can enter. The form that you see don't be fooled by that. In the old days, we have these screen savers on the computers. This is the screen saver kind of. There's a higher and higher and higher levels of consciousness there that you can attain easily through this form. So after he came down, though it was declared that he has the signs of an incarnation, but in that state, he got a very clear idea about himself. And one of his disciples, Swami Shardananda, who was also here in New York and on the East Coast for more than a year, he, in his magnum opus, Ramakrishna and his divine play, speaks about that. Sri Ramakrishna realized that his body would be an instrument for the divine to manifest and play in the world of spirit and matter. That was the first indication that Sri Ramakrishna gets. Sri Ramakrishna realized fully that he was an avatar. It was there that he himself got confirmation. You know what happened? Oh, don't they know it? They are aware since they are very childhood about it. But they take on the role of human beings and live our lives. There are flashes of insight, but this is the final confirmation that comes in. So this avatar, ever free, yet who descends to help mankind, and this has occurred many times before. His yogic practices were meant to eradicate the encrustations and corruptions in religion in the present age. 4. The spiritual current that would arise from him would raise humanity to a next level of spiritual evolution. And it would continue to work in this world for a long time. People would get liberation by just coming to him and accepting him as an avatar. His advent was for a special purpose that God, as a divine mother, had brought him down to earth. So all these kind of aspects of his mission became clear in that state. And from that day on, he worked tirelessly to help every single person. In Sri Ramakrishna's eyes, there was no high or low, or bad or good. No. He wasn't judgmental. He saw that this was his mission, and that is what has. They strive for all people to attain that perfection. And quickly. We don't have to wait for maybe 1,000,000 years. Yeah, according to Indian philosophy, we all will attain perfection or liberation given time. You take your own time and nature will lead you to perfection. Maybe after a couple of million years. But those who strive for, who wants to wait for such a long time? Suppose a person is hungry and says, don't worry, you will be fed. Maybe after 20 years, that guy will die. So there is an innate need in us that's impelling us towards attaining these goals, the perfection in us. And we can't wait. And because of this, we receive help. And we take the help and we push forward. In the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna tells Arjuna that this yoga, this imperishable yoga, I taught it at the beginning of creation to the god Vivaswan. Vivaswan taught it to Manu, the first progenitor of humankind. And then a succession of royal sages and saints took this practice up. In time, there was a kind of a corruption in his teachings. So that old yoga which I had taught, I am teaching you now, today. So somewhere deep down, embedded in this very fabric of evolution, of creation, is perfection. It's kind of running parallel with us. That's the reason why we feel we are a mixture of limitations, and at the same time we feel so free, we feel so vast. A small speck called the earth, yet the beings living on this can intuit this whole universe, study this whole universe. What could be more damaging than this? I'm talking and joking, of course. Yet we feel we are infinite, and at the same time we are kind of bound, cloistered. If these two feelings are false, human life would not be worth living. Both are complementary. The feeling of infinity along with the feeling of limitations. And humankind has been working against its limitations over and over again. And help comes in various ways, many times in our long journey. Let's put it like that. There was one disciple of Holy Mother, Swami Arupananda. He asked, does Sri Ramakrishna live in his picture? Saying, oh yes, he does. He lives in the picture. Okay. Then another time, when Sri Ramakrishna was there in Dakshineshwar, that's a place where he was living. Holy Mother was there in a kind of a room, Nahabat, and say, hey, what are you doing? He offers flowers and sandal paste to his own picture, worships it. This will be worshipped everywhere. This picture, no, the ideal of perfection will be worshipped. We are actually worshipping our own ideal of perfection. The external is just a kind of a projection of the internal ideal of perfection. Every time we strive to manifest these logos or the perfection, we are on the right path. The moment you give up the pursuit of perfection, everything becomes a shambles. So Holy Mother, another time, she was saying, well, one of her pictures was kind of, her disciple, Ashutosh Mitra, had clicked some of her pictures. And he showed it to her. So she takes a picture and she's kind of smiling and She salutes her own picture. Oh, mixed pranams. We don't try, we take selfies, of course. And we like smile. But we don't salute our own selfies. This guy is crazy. If you take selfies, it's one form of craziness, of course. And then after taking a selfie, you kind of like. So she salutes her own picture, and the disciple kept on laughing at her. She said, "Why are you laughing at me?" "Well, no. Whose picture is that?" "Well, it's my picture." "Why did you salute it?" She looks at him. "Oh, the master dwells in this picture." "Oh, that's why I'm saluting this picture." Yes. And when you take your selfies, you look at this picture, your own picture, and smile, or delete it. But when you look in your own picture, if you look there, you must be able to see Sri Ramakrishna there in that picture. Yeah. Then you know, not in the way that I'm talking about, he should be like this. You should see your own perfection within you. He is that perfection. He is that being who dwells in each and every one of us. We have been busy with the externals, not seeing deep enough. That ideal of perfection has been kind of calling upon us, trying to wake us up from that old delusion of limitations. So, when you go back home, look at yourself in the mirror. Of course, which I don't have to tell you to look in. You do it naturally. Try to see that Sri Ramakrishna also there in that. If you can do that, you have recognized your own divinity, your own purity, your own infinity. And that is the goal. Simply recognizing it will bring you that knowledge. Because, as I said, we are cognitively developed to intuit that perfection. That perfection has now come in this age as this form. And then you can keep on deeper and deeper. Try to look within yourself. You will find that you are actually a reflection of Sri Ramakrishna. Yes. So this is what Vedanta is. It tries to bring in everything, all the gods and all the heavens and all the earths and the whole of existence within yourself. The very principle of Vedanta is internalize everything. And as you have internalized everything, you'll see that you are a dim reflection. In the Upanishad, we have two birds of similar plumage sitting on a self-same tree. One bird sits down immersed in its own glory, in its joy state. And the other bird is hopping from branch to branch, kind of eating the sweet and bitter fruits. The tree is the body, likened to a body. Dva suparno sayuja sakaya samana vriksha parisasvajate. And the two entities here in the body, one is the higher entity, that divinity within us, the perfection within us. And the other entity is the one who enjoys the sweet and bitter fruits. Bitter fruits are not enjoyed, of course, it's kind of painful. So as the lower bird bites into a particularly bitter fruit, he kind of glances up towards it. That guy doesn't eat anything and is quite calm and majestic. And in times of stress and trouble, keeps on looking at that bird and keeps on moving towards it. Branch by branch by branch by branch. As the lower bird gets closer and closer to that higher bird, it finds that, oh, I was just a dim reflection of that bird. He merges in that bird. He was that higher bird all through. But through a kind of a illusion or maya, was reflected outside. So we are all reflections of what? Of the logos, of the spanda, of yoga, of Ramakrishna, whatever you say. We are dim reflections of that ideal of perfection which is already within us. And we have to actualize it. How do you do it? Well, help each other. That's the first step. Here. Never let you pull anybody down. That's the first step in manifesting your divinity. Don't criticize, don't be judgmental. In everyone is that divine spark, that divine bird. And whichever life form it has taken, it is there within. And that is what is calling out to us. Well, there are some who I have to go down deep in the state of yoga. The various states of yoga, the various states of samadhi, are the various levels of consciousness. Savitarka, nirvitarka, savichara, nirvichara, sananda, satmita. You won't believe it, the whole universe of absolute consciousness within you. We should have based our society, our lives, our civilization, our cultures on the reality of this higher mind. But we based it on GDP. Silly. Huh. How do you know the society that sees GDP? Huh. Gross domestic product. Or on wealth, on status, and all these things. We are basing our lives and societies on flimsy things, which can never be the goal. It will never satisfy you. That's the reason why if you want something, you get it, you will never be satisfied with that. You want more and more and more. Until you reach that state of perfection where there all the wants are forever over. And you'll see yourself beyond all wants, a perfect being. That perfect being is trying to emerge. Let that perfection emerge. Don't stop it. If you stop it, well, nothing is going to get lost, but you'll lose time. That is the goal of human life. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Namastu. So we have 5 minutes to kind of interact. Don't ask silly questions. Ask a perfect question.
Thank you, Maharaj. I think I have not yet attained perfection, but my point is that in Buddhism there's a nirvana. Getting out of the cycle of life and birth is the goal of life. But what you are telling us, that attaining perfection, but this is our limited body, limited ideas, limited mindset. We'll never attain it. If we are attaining it, then we are not going to be born. I think.
Now you give that mic here. I'll answer the question. Buddhism is a rebel child of Hinduism. So the mother knows better. We have the concept of Brahma Nirvana. What is Nirvana? Nirvana is to have your individual existence extinguished. Like a flame that's extinguished, that is called Nirvana. Your individual existence is extinguished. In what? When Siddhartha Buddha, he meditated, he attained Nirvana. What did he become? He became the Buddha. You understood this? So from his small individuality, his limitations, he became the unlimited. So this state, if you call it Nirvana or Brahma Nirvana, whatever you say, so it's a transition. Your individuality is a kind of an illusion. Yes, according to Buddhism and according to Vedanta also. So when you merge in that infinity, perfection, you attain everything. You become Brahma Nirvana, you become the infinite. Okay? You don't become a zero. Buddha never became a zero. Did he? And that was the argument we said. If your individual existence is merged into a void, how come Buddha brought with him all that knowledge that he had? From the void? No. From the full. So the use of the word void, shunyata, Vedanta says it's purnata, full. Got it? There. Thank you. Yes.
Hello. When in reading Gospel of Ramakrishna, it seems that Sri Ramakrishna gave preeminence to bhakti. In that context, when I read the stories of the great ones, they seem to gain their greatness in the presence, in the physical presence of a great one or greater one, whether it's Vivekananda or Ramana Maharshi. And I think we, as where we are, who we are, how do we gain some of that? How do we,
Why do you see a difference between perfect love and perfect knowledge? There is no difference. Perfect love will bring perfect knowledge, number one. Secondly, it harmonizes your work. Suppose you have devotion to your work. You will work with all the attention and with all the kind of, you can say, the alertness that you need. So, your devotion is linked to knowledge, it's linked to work, and when you are devoted to something, you automatically restrain yourself. There's yoga. So, it's all interconnected, you see. But when you see it in isolation, Sri Ramakrishna himself says that if you love somebody, you want to know that person. And the more you know that person, you begin to love that person more. And the more you love that person, the more you know that person. It's obvious that it's just the obverse and reverse side of the same thing. Perfect knowledge of love and knowledge go hand in hand together. Yes, there are kind of structured paths to this, the reality, according to jnana. But in this age, Swami Vivekananda says, combine all together. Why do you want to be monotonous? Take one and only. Take all of them. Because we have the four faculties already within us. We have the power to control ourselves. We have the power to love. We have the power to know, and we have the power to work. Utilize all these things. Sri Ramakrishna emphasized devotion, bhakti, because in this age, our human bodies and minds are weak. Devotion is natural. Wherever you see life, you will see love. You'll never see, it's not something you need to learn. Do your parents taught you to love? No. Love was natural, spontaneous. Every being, not only human beings, every being, living beings have love. So it's a natural state. So you take the path of devotion, you reach that goal in the most natural way, the kind of line of least resistance. So use it, and Godspeed to you.
Yes, I have a question. I'm also, as everyone else here, striving for perfection and that ultimate goal and realization. What would be the steps to become a monk, for instance?
Monk?
Yes.
Come on. We rarely get such people who like to be monks. So, yes. The very first basis, not only of a monk's life, but a householder's life, any life, is the ideal of sacrifice. Yes. And that has been intuited by all religions, the idea of sacrifice. You need to sacrifice the lower for the higher. It's only then we keep on transcending ourselves. And as we keep on transcending ourselves, we keep on growing. And we grow into perfection. So, becoming a monk, somebody, in America, they say, how did you become a monk? Was it a sudden conversion? You suddenly decided? I said, nothing like that. You grow into it. So, I would recommend grow into the ideas of universality, of universal love. Start with yourself. Start loving yourself. Okay? Not your body. Obviously. A lot of imperfections. I don't want to live. Not even your mind. Because there are a lot of imperfections in my mind. Learn to love your own individuality, your soul. Once you can get a taste of that, it's not egotism, I'll tell you. Because your consciousness, your soul, has got the same, you can say, reflection everywhere. You start to understand yourself. Many people say, Sri Ramakrishna says, we need to go now and then into solitude and pray. I said, don't do that. Yeah, not now. Because when you go into solitude, you are confronted with your old thoughts, old memories, all the things that you've accumulated. You got to face it, and people can't face it. If you can do that, then the next step is to come over the side. Yeah, that's it. Because not only that, you must be able to be comfortable with yourself. Okay, I've done many mistakes. Okay, fine, I did this wrong and that wrong. Okay, I did this. Are you comfortable with that? Do you wince when you remember something? Don't do that. Then you face yourself. This is what I was. This is what I want to be. Okay. So thank you very much.